All right, here's the intro hook. Mobile gaming, not just the games themselves, but also the advertising framework, is a sandbox of psychological manipulation. And today I want to talk about precisely why it works on a little over half the population. Because odds are, if you chose to click on this, it probably works on you. First things first, we need definitions. Fail advertising, particularly in terms of mobile gaming, refers to an advertisement where a very basic simulated user experience on screen ends in failure, obviously. I'll show some examples in the background right now, but the gist of it is that you'll have a game. Some of the major culprits of this would be Top War, Evoni, Royal Match, etc., and many others I'm sure a lot of people might already be familiar with. You have a game where extremely basic choices are being made, and most importantly, they're being made incorrectly. It's usually a 15 to 30-second overall experience where the user makes a couple of good choices, then a couple of bad ones, ultimately making some sort of massive blunder, after which they fail, obviously, hence the name. But the entire premise of the ad is to keep you watching or cause you to download the game. And again, for a little over half the online population, it's incredibly effective. I've talked about these kinds of ads before, mostly just criticizing them openly, but today I want to change it up a little bit and focus on why they even work in the first place, because it's actually extremely interesting. It ties into the concept of MBTI personality types, if you can believe that. And if you stick around for the rest of the video, you might even learn something about yourself. Cool. Now that I've got the hook out of the way, let's talk about the rabbit hole. Online advertising is an incredibly complex beast, but one of the things that determines what you see more of is actually what you choose to watch in the first place. Let's say you get shown two ads back to back. One of them is for hamburgers, the other is for french fries. You, being a hypothetical, let's say, I don't know, vegetarian in this case, or maybe you just don't like hamburgers, immediately click skip on the first ad. But the second ad has a song that's kind of catchy or a flashy visual that captivates you, and you spend an extra 5 or 10 seconds listening to it absent mindedly. Well, that's an inconsequential detail on our end, but for the advertising algorithm, it's a pretty big deal. You immediately skipped the hamburger ad, but not the one for french fries, so maybe you're susceptible to buying some french fries, and now your account gets tagged with some sort of identifier, whatever proprietary system they have that does it, which makes it far more likely that you'll be shown ads for, I don't know, potato products, tater tots, french fries, etc., and far less likely that you'll ever be shown additional advertisements for hamburgers or maybe steak. It's a stupid example, I know, and extremely rudimentary at that, but the point is to illustrate that by watching something, the algorithms begin to think that you might like that thing, or at the very least, that you may be susceptible to using or buying that thing. And the longer you watch, the more they're inclined to show it to you. This is important later on because it's the reason why the advertising rabbit hole of mobile game fail ads exists in the first place. But for right now, it's a very simple progression. Advertisements get shown to you, and if you watch them through to the end, similar ones keep getting shown to you more and more often. This is where it gets interesting. After watching some of these fail ads for myself, and after realizing that my entire social media feed was now dominated by them incessantly, I set out to understand what had actually happened to me and why some people that I talked to about all of it had no idea what I was even saying. Why was my social media feed completely subsumed by this phenomenon? Why did I catch myself watching these ads for 10, 15, 20 seconds longer than others? And why wasn't the same thing true for other people? It was certainly true for some others, yes, but not everyone. So what was happening? Here's what I found. It turns out there's this thing, a fairly well studied psychological phenomenon that is, called self enhancement bias, which refers to, quote, people's general tendency to endorse self views in various domains that are more favorable than is warranted by objective reality, end quote. More simplified, self enhancement bias refers to a near universal phenomenon where human beings tend to have inflated views of their own character or abilities in this case, even when those opinions have no objective evidence. Basically, we think we're better than we are. Well, that's all well and good, but it goes a couple steps further. According to a survey conducted by 16 personalities, which asked participants to respond to a statement that said, deep down, do you enjoy feeling superior to others? Quote, the thinking trait was by far the most influential factor in whether our readers agreed that they enjoy feeling superior to others, with thinking personality types, 81%, agreeing at a rate 22% higher than feeling types, 59%. Because analysts push aside emotion and empathy in favor of logic, it's easy for them to take their observations of other people to their seemingly logical conclusions. End quote. Now, bear with me here, because thinking, in this case, refers to the MBTI personality index, which has things like introvert, extrovert, thinking, or feeling. You probably took the test back in high school, at least if you live in America. And this particular survey from 16 personalities indicates that people with the thinking trait actually typically get a sense of enjoyment from feeling superior, which creates an interesting situation. Not only do human beings have a tendency to overestimate themselves, but a substantial portion of them also get a distinct sense of enjoyment out of feeling superior. It's a potent combination. However, that's only 2 points of the ultimate trifecta because there's one more piece of the puzzle here: Dunning Kruger. Clinically known as illusory superiority, Dunning Kruger, named after Cornell University psychologists David Dunning and Justin Kruger in 1999, is essentially a description of how confidence does not actually correlate with competence, creating an effect where people with extremely low aptitude or intelligence think extremely highly of themselves, even beyond the people who legitimately do possess high levels of capability. It's a somewhat debated principle lately, to be fair, but if you consider these three concepts all together, it makes for a very interesting picture. All human beings, it seems, have a tendency to overestimate themselves. Those with the thinking and judging personality traits, which is a hefty chunk of the population overall, derive a sense of enjoyment out of feeling superior. And those with low competency or intelligence are inversely the most confident. Hopefully, everyone can see where I'm going with this. Also, to be clear, after spending as much time as I have researching everything, I'm left sitting here wondering whether or not I'm actually just an idiot myself, because I catch myself watching these ads for an extra 10 or 15 seconds way more often than I should. Fail ads, particularly for mobile games, deliberately prey on these three psychological principles, where not only do people overestimate themselves, but the idiots overestimate themselves the most, while anyone with particular personality traits derive satisfaction from the idea that they're superior. Somehow, the mobile game industry, of course it did, obviously, they're as predatory as it gets, has discovered that you can effectively target about 64% of the population, in my estimation, according to MBTI stats, and then refine that targeting even further so that you have an advertisement which simultaneously conveys an impending sense of satisfaction if the person just downloads the game and does better than that dumbass who's playing in the ad, and hyper targets people with low aptitude, capability, and intelligence, which is a demographic far, far more likely to spend hefty amounts of time on their phone to begin with. And if you're curious where I got that information from, there's an abundance of research on how smartphone usage affects cognitive abilities, including everything from games to social media. The point is, fail ads represent a devious and hyper-targeted strategy to prey on human weakness and attract a particularly vulnerable set of people. For better or for worse, judge me if you want to, I've caught myself watching these mobile ads for a few extra seconds at least, waiting to see what decision the player will make, right? The player in air quotes, like the player that's playing in the advertisement, even though it's not a real person, and smirking to myself how stupid they are when they make the wrong one. I could obviously do better, is the thought that runs through everyone's mind, not just me. And that is because we fell into a psychological trap. The advertising algorithm of whatever platform we're on, either Twitter or YouTube in my case, typically, it's happened with both of them now, decided to show us more of those ads because we watched them longer, and the result is a vicious feedback loop where we now have an overabundance of mobile game advertisements where the player, air quotes there, it's not a real player, but the player in the ad is just stupidly, blatantly failing, and all these ads show up on practically everything we watch. On the one hand, it's completely obnoxious, but on the other, I very clearly brought it down on myself. Pulling it back full circle now, the reason that you, yes, you, the viewer, watch, fall for, or see a ridiculous amount of these advertisements in your feed is one of three different reasons. You are either A, part of the thinking personality type who feels an impending sense of satisfaction because you know you can do better than the person in the ad, which gives you the urge to download and play it and do it better. B, an idiot who's overestimating their own capabilities, aka Dunning-Kruger. Or C, both of those things, which might sound very insulting, it kind of is, but it's also reality because there's a reason that you see those ads. There's a reason the mobile game companies spend hundreds of millions of dollars making them, and there's a reason they work. This part didn't really make it into the final video fully, but I also did go down a rabbit hole of looking at what companies are doing this, what the budgets are, and where they're located, with some pretty extreme examples. Blue Vision Interactive out of Hong Kong is running roughly 50,000 campaigns right now, most of which are some variation of mobile fail ads. Nexters Global, which only targets one of the games doing this, I forget the name now, but it's this right here on screen, has over 4,000 ads running at this particular point in time. Again, pretty much every single one using the same psychological model. And the truth is, we wouldn't be seeing this kind of volume if it didn't work. Mobile games already they exist in an extremely competitive atmosphere when it comes to advertising in the first place. So the emergence of this new methodology, the methodology of the fail, as I call it, is an indication that there's a lot of people susceptible to it, very susceptible to it. A lot of people are falling for it, and there's a very good reason why they keep doing it. In the end, rather than simply complaining about the ads themselves, which I've done before, I want to take some time and try to figure out why they exist in the first place. Yes, I feel kind of stupid now because obviously they've worked on me to a degree where my watch time made the algorithm show a lot more of them to me, but I also had fun learning new things and making a video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one as well. Let me know anything else that you'd like to see down in the comment section. Links down below to support as well. A special VPN deal, locals in Patreon, merchandise, social media, etc., etc. Bunch of good stuff. Check it out. But I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching. Question everything, and have a nice night.